If you build it, they will come. That's the gamble members of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe made when they broke ground on the First Light Resort Casino last year. But this is what the 170-acre plot looks like today. Nearly untouched and fenced off thanks to a legal challenge to the federal government's 2015 decision to declare the land reservation territory. I'm joined now by Cedric Cromwell, who serves as council chairman of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe of Massachusetts. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Good to see you as well, Jim.
Let's just try to go through the history. A year and a half ago, this federal court judge denied reservation status, saying it was not a close call. And to be clear for people at home who are familiar with the traditional process here, if you got that status, you can open your casino in Taunton. The state is not involved. You don't have to pay them anything. It's full steam ahead. So now that they've blocked that, the federal court did, where are things?
So the designation for trust lands is in place. Judge Young ruled that the United States did not have the authority under a specific category of the Indian Reorganization Act to take the land into trust. He read the statute, I believe, incorrectly based on the plaintiff's submission.
He said it wasn't a close call.
Yeah, and so he remanded it back to the United States for further review.
So what happens next? You're like now dealing with the Interior Department in the hope that something happens?
Absolutely. We're back with the Department of Interior. We've submitted. The record closes on November 13th, and then we wait for a new decision.
You know, the Taunton mayor, who's a big fan of this this billion-dollar investment, he thinks, without giving people a headache at home, forget this tribal status thing. Just apply for a commercial license. I've interviewed Steve Crosby, chair of the commission, many times, and I surely don't want to speak for him, but it seems like they denied the Brockton request in part because they thought you were coming. If you apply for a commercial license, it's full speed ahead. Why not just do that and get it over with?
Commercial license isn't guaranteed. It's a fair bid process. But I think what was clear is that Brockton was denied because we had a better proposal. It was more fruitful for the city of Taunton and the entire region.
Yeah, but you say there's no guarantee, but you can always fall back on the federal thing. If you consider to pursue your rights with the Interior Department, there's got to be something more going on, Chairman, because you could apply for that, you get it, fabulous. You don't get it, you fall back on your federal rights, as you perceive your federal rights to be. Why not do it? Is it about the money? Because you have to pay serious cash to the state.
There's a difference in revenue share, right?
A big difference.
There is a big difference in revenue share based on the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. But I mean, first things first, we've followed through with federal law. We want to see that process go through. And, you know, the commission has closed Regency until we hear a definitive decision from the Interior for the tribe.
So is your position, just so I'm clear here, is your position, we're sitting this out until we hear from the Interior Department, no application for a commercial license in the interim?
Yeah, Jim, anything's possible.
Okay, fine. You know, so that's not a Sherman-esque kind of statement. You're not saying not never.
Right. It could be. There's a possibility for that.
You know, I'm really glad you're here because I'm obsessed with the casino issue. And virtually every time I've read about you, in the Boston Globe, for example, Chairman declines comment. Why all of a sudden, if I'm right about this, maybe I'm not, but at least that's my recollection, have you decided it's important to put a face to this proposal?
I've always commented on it. We've had open public policy hearings at the Tribal Government Center with Steve Crosby and the commission. It was streamed over TV.
Right, it was.
And I was very clear on, what our position was, and it's a collaborative, cooperative position with the Commonwealth. And through agreements, the compact, there is revenue share with the Commonwealth and thousands of jobs. So, is
there pressure on you from your members to get this resolved? I assume this is a big nut here. This is huge money.
Yeah, this is billions of dollars.
So are they willing to be as patient as you seem to be? Because, by the way, even if the Interior Department, I'm no expert in this area, but I assume you'd agree, if the Interior Department rules in your favor, there's going to be a legal challenge again, and you're going to be back in court, aren't you?
So the interesting thing is that the legal challenge will be something that it's already gone through the Supreme Court. So when they go through this new category, it's something that's already went through the Supreme Court. It's been tested, so it's law.
Are you as calm as you appear to be about this thing?
You know, Jim, it's been a lot of days.
Okay.
It's been sleepless nights, but I'm focused. We got to make it work.
Are you worried about oversaturation? I mean, there's a guy from, as you know, from Dorchester, Shelley Adelson, knows a little bit about casinos.
Absolutely.
When the legislature said 3, and by the way, if you get federal status, you could be 4th, 5th, whatever it is. You're separate from that. He said 3's too much. Wouldn't you be wiser to wait to see how Everett and Springfield do before you decide to plunk down $1 billion with your partners in this thing?
Well, we've got the advantage in revenue share, obviously, based on Indian gaming. So there's a different percentage in distribution of cash flow. So that's important. But I think first and foremost, the Expanded Gaming Act was up to 3 resort casinos and 1 slot parlor. Yeah. So you're right. The statement that you said, there could be a 4th and a 5th, depending on what happens in a timing perspective. I think at that point there's going to be problems.
Have you thought about marijuana as a business? I mean, some other tribes around the country, as I'm sure you know better than I, have decided they don't have to worry about the federal prohibition, even in states where it's illegal, it doesn't matter. Is that something you've contemplated?
You know, it's been challenging, right? Because your points are well taken around the federal prohibition and what have you. Wisconsin tribes have done it, and there's been problems with DEA and what have you like that. So what I like,
you're a sovereign nation. You're not subject to those same federal laws.
And I think, you know, when Mr. Holder came out and said, you know, tribes can do this.
Former AG.
Exactly. He says, I'm not going to hold tribes accountable for this because it's legal and lawful. I think there's a way forward, especially with the Commonwealth. They've got state law that supports it. We'd probably do a compacting relationship.
So you're looking at this?
Absolutely. We're looking at all opportunities.
A couple of things, just if we can step back to larger Native American issues. As you know, just 2.5 days after declaring November Native American Heritage Month, the President of the United States referred to one of the senators from here, Elizabeth Warren, as Pocahontas for the 1,000th time. A lot of your fellow Native Americans felt that was incredibly disrespectful.
Yeah.
Do you?
Well, I think it's rhetoric, number one, and I think we should respect each other. That's the bottom line. And so the President made his comments, but his proclamation, when I read it, it talks about the history of the tribe, how the tribes have helped historically through the many phases of this country to develop and establish this country because the tribes had all the resources.
So you don't seem to be terribly troubled by what he said.
You know, the President talks about everybody, he makes comments everywhere. So what I'd like to see is that within his proclamation, what he said does bear fruit. He talks about economic development for tribes. First Light, the resort development that I'm doing, is economic development. And his administration has to make a positive decision.
But he also talks about opioids, and as you know better than I, the CDC says the hardest hit minority group in the country are Native Americans, and there's no targeting by the President at all.
Exactly. So that's why I point out this proclamation. He comes out and he says a lot of important things about the support for Native America. And so I want to hold him accountable to those words. He wrote it. He put it out there. We're saying we've got an opportunity for him to prove good on his word. Let's see what happens.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you.
Chairman. Hope to see you
Absolutely.
again soon. Thanks.